Today is the perfect day to talk to former President Jimmy Carter for three reasons. One, it's his 85th birthday. Two, we want to ask him firsthand about the controversial comments he made about President Obama and racism.
Yeah, and number three, there is big news about his presidential library, and our Candy Crowley is there. She's handling all of that for us this morning. Hey, Candy.
How are you all? You're right, I am here with former President Carter and Mrs. Carter. It's so good to be here. And they just said 85th birthday, opening of the new improved museum and library, which we've had a chance to go through. So thank you for joining us. Let me tell you what fascinates me is that I've been to a lot of these presidential libraries, and not nearly as much space and time is devoted to the post-life, the post-presidency. And it brings to mind to me that so many people have said, you know, President Carter had a far better post-presidency than presidency. How do you look at it?
I think it's almost the same. You know, the issues with which I had to deal as president were momentous. We brought peace between Israel and its only major Arab challenger, Egypt, and that treaty has been in place for 30 years and not a word has been violated. We normalized diplomatic relations with China. We had the greatest expansion of the national parks and wilderness areas in history, brought a comprehensive energy policy. And so I think that the main thing that this museum now shows is kind of a continuum of what you do before, during, and after the presidency. And you're right, this is the first presidential library that's really shown anything of substance after the White House years. So I think it's going to be a fascinating thing just to see the history of one person, that is me, but also the history by nation, because I've identified about 30 things of importance that I had to address when I was president that are still on the desk of the Oval Office and President Obama has to address. Notably, the Mideast and Iran and energy and a comprehensive health program and many, many others.
I want to ask you a little bit about the Mideast because we have a couple things going on today about that, but I wanted to talk to Mrs. Carter because a lot of this is also your museum and it's your works, because I know you have traveled a lot with the president. You focus so much on mental health when you were, you know, in your first lady time and post first lady. We now have parity in health care with mental health. What's next? I mean, what has to be done next as far as you're concerned?
Well, the first thing with parity is to implement the legislation, but also it covers employees of employers who have more than 50 employees, and because that's a big chunk. But there are others too that don't have parity, that won't have parity under this legislation, so we've got to extend that so that everybody has parity. Another thing is that we must combine mental health and health. There should be no division. Mental illness is a biological disease now, a brain disorder. With all the research we had, that has been determined. So there should be no difference in physical and mental health. In the government, they're not together. And people with a mental health problem go to the doctor. And sometimes they don't look at their physical health. And people with mental illness, so many people now die 25 years younger than people with who go for health problems.
Still some work to be done.
So a lot of work to be done.
Mr. President, let me ask you first domestically. You made some remarks recently about how you felt about the protesters that were protesting against President Obama. You said overall you thought the protesters were upset that there was a black president, that there was racism involved. You said that many people...
By the way, that's not what I said.
Okay.
I said those on the fringe element that had vituperative personal attacks on President Obama. Those were the ones that I included, but I
recognize... Your first remarks were that overall...
No, it wasn't. If you read the remarks carefully, you'll see that that's not what I said. I said those that had a personal vituperative attack on President Obama as a person, that was tinged with racism. But I recognize that people who disagree with him on health care or environment and things like that, that vast majority of those are not tinged by racism.
So you think they were taken out of context? You didn't mean that most of those protesters out there
I meant
were
exactly
racist?
what I said. that what I actually said, if you look at this transcript, is just what I just repeated to you.
Let me ask you about Iran, because we're having those talks today. This is a country that you had to deal with during your presidency, during the hostage taking. Do you see any hope at all that Iran is going to come to the community of nations and somehow say, sure, come look at our facility, and we will certainly walk away from any nuclear ambitions? That's not going to happen, is it?
Well, in this museum presentation, there's a lot about Iran. And as I said before, the things that affected me when I was president quite often are the same things that 30 years, 25 years later affect President Obama's decisions. I hope and pray that Iran will be induced to permit the international inspectors to come in and observe their entire nuclear program, because what they're doing so far is entirely legal under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. They have a right to purify uranium and even plutonium to be used to produce power. I think the worst thing that we can do is to continue to threaten Iran, because if Iran is on the borderline between going nuclear and not on a weapons system, the constant threats that we or the Israelis are going to attack Iran is the best thing to force them. Let's defend ourselves. So I don't think that Iran has yet made up their mind about what to do. And I think the best way we can do is engage them and stop making these idle threats that force them to take the most militaristic action.
Unfortunately, Mr. President, Mrs. Carter, we have run out of time. It's TV, but it's a gorgeous museum. Good luck. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.